It's great to have you all here with us today. We're going to go ahead and get started with today's webinar titled Mastering Marketing Automation, Unveiling Digital's Powerhouse. The goal for today's webinar is to inform you a little bit about Swift Digital as a company and also show you our marketing automation platform, the different tools and capabilities that it offers. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Ryan. I'm based in Melbourne. And I've been working with Swift for about the last 15 years. A lot of my job is working with government clients to make sure they're making the most of the platform, but also in helping them to set up digital campaigns, automated campaigns, that sort of thing. Also helping me today are my colleagues, Kim and T. They've done a lot of work behind the scenes to set up and run this webinar, so just wanted to say a big thanks to them. Also, as we're going through the webinar, if you have any questions that come up, feel free to jump into the Zoom chat and you can message either Kim or T. They'll collect your questions and then we'll spare a few minutes towards the end just to answer any questions that came up from anyone. But with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to run through a quick agenda and then we will get into the webinar. So what you can expect today is to learn a little bit about Swift. I have a slide that we'll go through, just tell you a little bit more about the company. We'll then talk about what's in the Swift platform and some of the different solutions that it offers. We'll talk about why so many different organizations in Australia choose Swift as their platform of choice. We'll talk about how Swift secures your data and our approach to data security. And then we'll get into the actual platform. I'll do a live demo of the platform, show you what it looks like and how it works. We'll cover some examples of Swift's marketing automation capabilities. I have a few case studies. We probably won't be able to get through all of them, but I'll show you some things that are really simple to set up in Swift and can really save you a lot of time in manual work and administration. And then finally, there's some slides that talk about how you can increase your stakeholder engagement. We'll try to have a look at those if we have some time as well. First, a little bit about Swift. So for those of you who are existing clients, just bear with me and you probably know all about us. But for those of you who aren't, Swift is an Australian owned and operated company. We've been around about almost 25 years now, so quite a long time. And we're known for having our all-in-one marketing and events platform. We have staff in Sydney and Melbourne, and we're government accredited and ISO 27001 certified, which is usually really important for your IT teams to see. One thing that is quite unique to Swift is our assurance of data security and sovereignty. We'll talk more about this. I have a slide on that later on. And we have all local support resources available to you. In addition to that, we offer dedicated account managers that are always available if you need any help with strategy or advice. And we allow you to add unlimited users or seats to your Swift account within the platform without it affecting your licensing or your pricing. So that's a little bit about Swift. As for the platform itself, the tools that it includes are email marketing, event management, landing pages, online surveys, SMS marketing, and then we have some marketing automation tools as well. So you might imagine for a moment all the different platforms or tools that you're currently using for these different kinds of solutions. With Swift, it's really taking all of those and merging them into just one platform, one solution. There's a reason that so many, especially government clients, but also financial and educational clients choose to go with Swift. We offer, because we're Australian operated, we offer local support. You can always get assistance whenever you need it. You don't need to wait to hear back. The system's meant to be very user-friendly. Anyone should be able to pick it up and use it. You don't need any technical knowledge or even really experience with other platforms. We comply with local Australian legislation. We can also comply with, GDPR if you have contacts who are in Europe. But for the most part, our primary focus is on Australian legislation and complying with the Australian privacy principles. The platform itself is very scalable. So no matter how large or small your team, you might have just one person using the system, or we have some clients who have 80 plus users using their account. So it's very scalable. And another thing that Swift will do is we will custom build solutions for you. So some platforms, you kind of get what you get. With Swift, we're willing to tailor things or custom build things like forms, subscription forms, preference centers, that sort of thing, to suit your needs. And then, of course, automation and integration is a big part of what makes the Swift platform so popular. There's lots of things that you can do within the platform that will save you time by automating tasks, but also the ability to integrate with other platforms such as CRMs or other data sources that pull in and always make sure your data is up to date. Especially if you're running automations, you want to make sure that you have always up-to-date data pretty much on a daily basis. These are some of our clients that currently use Swift. They use us every day, whether they're sending out newsletters or running events. Um, they could be running surveys or sending SMS through the platform as well. But this just gives you an idea of some of the different clients that currently use us. All right, now data security is one of the main questions I get asked when clients are approaching us is where do we host our data? So when it comes to data security, we store all of your data in Australia, and it's actually stored in data centers in Sydney. So you never need to worry about your data going overseas or being bound by overseas legislation. Your data will always stay in Australia. We use AWS data centers, so it's highly secure. And in our terms and conditions, something else that you'll find is that you always maintain ownership and right over your data. So when you come on board, you own your data. If you were to ever leave, it's your data to take with you. Um, we also have a series of different security protocols that we run through, such as login security. We can enable things like single sign-on on your account or multi-factor authentication. And we run through regular penetration tests. We have those performed by an independent third party 2 times a year. Um, if you have questions or you'd like to know more about our approach to security, we have a security document that we can provide to you later on as well. All right. That covers kind of the intro to Swift. Hope that's given you an idea of who Swift is. I'm going to jump into the platform now. We'll have a look at what the platform looks like, how it works. Let me just switch over screens. Okay, so once you're in the Swift platform, I mentioned some of the different solutions at the start, but you'll be able to find those solutions through this drop-down menu. We call them modules in the platform. So you can see there's different modules for different tasks that you might be doing. So if you are going to build and publish emails, you do that in the Email Composer module. If you're building landing pages or web pages, you can even add your own subscription or sign-up forms. You do that with landing pages. Surveys is where you'd go to build and run online surveys. These can be quite advanced, so you could add different kind of like conditional logic or branching questions if you'd like. If you need to send out SMS campaigns, you can do that here. Triggers and Campaign Builder are two of our automation modules. I will show you both of those. In fact, one of the first case studies that I'll show you utilizes the triggers module quite well. So we'll have a look at those. And then also we have an events module. So if you run events and you need to set up registration forms, capture bookings, issue confirmation emails, track attendance, all of that sort of thing can be done in the events module as well. Sitting kind of on top of everything are our foundational modules. That's what you see here. There's an art library. You would go here to load any imagery that you want to use. So things like banner images, logos. If you upload your imagery, you can even resize them. So you don't need to like crop or resize them before you upload. You can upload them first and then use the edit tool to crop and resize or even add text on top of your images. If you have a lot of users in the platform, then you tag your users. You can see there's a tag here. That makes it really easy for you to find your images later on down the road. There's also a file library where you can store things like PDFs and Word docs. So this is really helpful if you're not able to easily upload these files to your own web environment, you could instead load them in your Swift account. And then when you're sending out an email communication or maybe on a landing page, you could link to these files for your recipients to download them. And then the Mailhouse it's the database. It really kind of is what holds everything together. All of the different modules kind of sync into the database in one way or another. But this is where you manage your contact lists. So you can load as many contact lists into the system as you'd like. You can see here we call them mail groups. Within each group, you have your different contacts. So you can see there are 21 contacts in this all new subscribers group. There are different ways that you can get contacts into the system. You can either do a manual import, which is what most clients do. So you just need to have your contacts in a CSV file. You can drag and drop that CSV file here and then go through this import process. It takes about 5 to 10 minutes to upload a new list. Doesn't take too long at all. You can also create data fields in the custom fields area if you have any data that you'd like to include in your import. So for example, email address is the required field, but you might also have first name, last name, maybe state. You can create those data fields and then upload that data when you're doing your CSV imports. So that's one way to get data into the system. The other way is through automated syncs. You can do that by connecting through one of our APIs to automatically sync your contact data in. You can also extract data back out if you need. Or if you're using Swift for internal comms, which a lot of our clients do use the platform for that, you can sync your Active Directory distribution lists and you can have them sync on a daily basis. So you always have up-to-date data lists within the platform. So managing your data is very easy. Once you've loaded your contacts in, you can jump into any group and see who those contacts are. You can see any data that you have on those contacts, also their subscription status. So if they've subscribed or unsubscribed from your comms, you'll be able to see that here as well. I probably won't spend any more time on the database area. I know it's not the most exciting part, but it is an important part. I'm going to jump into the email area next and show you what the email builder looks like and just how easy it is to use. While I'm going there, I will point out our support offerings because I know that's always important, especially if you're looking to come on board to Swift. So we offer live chat within the platform. For those of our existing clients who are here, I get great feedback on this. They love having the ability to jump on immediately and get help straight away when they need it. So that is a really valuable tool to have live chat in the platform. But there are other support resources as well. There's a knowledge base with lots of how-tos and frequently asked questions, quite a few video tutorials, and you can also send an email if you prefer to log your tickets over email instead of chat. We also offer free trainings to our clients, so we run these twice a day. That allows you to sign up for a training session whenever you have new staff come on board, or if you just like a refresher training, you can book directly through this training option here. Now, jumping into the email composer module, you can see here we have a list of different thumbnails. These are all different email communications that you're looking at. When we onboard you at Swift, we take your brand guidelines and we custom build templates according to them. So usually we'll build a newsletter template, a general communications template, and a landing page template. You then take those templates and clone them to create future documents or future editions. It means that when you get started with Swift, you have a set series of templates ready to go. You don't need to try and design or build out your own templates. It's all done for you from the very beginning. I'm going to show you an example of a newsletter template that we built for AFP. It's an example of an internal comms newsletter template. But really, this email builder can be used for any type of email communication, not just newsletters. It could just be standard alerts or notifications, promotional or marketing emails, survey emails, that sort of thing. But I'm going to jump into this newsletter and I'll show you the email builder just to give you an idea of how it works. The builder is a drag and drop builder, so you kind of edit things as you're looking at it. You can, if you want to change things like column widths, you just click and drag to resize your column widths. Anywhere that you want to add new content, you can hover over an existing row and add a new row with up to 4 columns. So if I wanted to add a new content block below this, you can see I've added one in here. That's a single row column. I could then, on the left-hand side, drag in any of the content widgets that Swift offers. So a standard one would just be a text block. You can click and drag that in. You'll also have up to 15 styles that you can swap between. These are, styles that we build according to your own brand. So you can swap between brand approved styles. That makes it really easy for you or whoever's working on your email communications to stay brand consistent. You can, of course, do things like add personalization to your emails. The most common example is personalized with their first name, but really any data field that you've imported into Swift, you can click the personal fields function and then drop in any data field from the database. Other widgets that you can add, so you have a text block with different layout options. You can add an image block if you want to add a banner image. You just click and drag to upload your image or choose one from the art library. You can add YouTube videos. All you need to do is grab the YouTube URL. Quick links is what you see right here. That is in this issue section. What it does is it acts as a table of contents for the articles that you have down below. So we find that for clients who have a lot of newsletter content, when they send the email, often the recipients don't scroll to the bottom of a newsletter. So there might be content that they'd actually be interested in, but they just miss out on because they didn't scroll. So by including a table of contents like this up at the top, it lets people know what's down below, and then they can click on anything that they might be interested in, and it jumps them straight down to that section. So it's great for the user because they can see what the article content is down below without even having to scroll. But also it's great for you because you get all the click data. So you can see which articles were most popular amongst your readers. So that's a really valuable tool to add if you have newsletters with quite a bit of article content. You can also add share functionality. So if you want people to share your newsletter to social networks, you can easily drag that in. We've added quite a few features to assist with engagement to try and drive more clicks. So an example of that would be adding in a poll. You can click and drag in your poll, choose the question and what the response options are for people. You can add multiple polls to your email or newsletter if you'd like as well. We have a general feedback widget. You can click and drag that in. This aims to make your newsletters a bit more social or interactive. So you can see here, this is showing emoji ratings. If I scroll down, you can see this article here, Fly in, Fly out. We're instead asking, did you find this article interesting? It has thumbs up, thumbs down. You can change that to star ratings or even satisfaction scores. So you have a few different options there that you can play around with. Anything that you can add to your newsletters to try and drive more clicks will increase your overall open and engagement rates. If you're using Swift for events, we also have some event widgets that you can add. So you can add a calendar that will list your upcoming events. You can add an RSVP widget for people to register or decline attendance at your events. And you can even add Google Maps. So you could, drag and drop that in. You can enter any address or link it to an event that you've already created. It'll pinpoint that location on the map, and you can even choose your zoom level. So for event-related comms or anything that's location-based, it's really handy to be able to just quickly add a Google Map widget without having to go and take screenshots yourself. I think another feature worth mentioning that can be really useful is your ability to tailor content to your recipients based on the data that you have on them. So we call that dynamic content rules. But you can see here in this particular newsletter, we have 2 blocks of content. One block we want to show to staff in New South Wales. The other block we want to show to staff in Victoria. So we don't want these blocks to be shown to everyone, just to the people whose state they're in. So for example, this Victorian block, if we click the little check symbol next to it, you'll see it pulls up the dynamic content rules prompt. And then here is where we set our data rules. So we've added a data field value rule here. You can see it says display only to recipients whose state equals Vic. So what the system will do is when it's sending out the email, it will check every single recipient to see what their state is based on the data in the database. Anyone whose state equals Vic will see this content. For anyone else, it simply won't be shown to them. It just won't display at all. Um, so if you ever find yourself in a situation where you're creating lots of different versions of an email or newsletter and then slightly tailoring or tweaking the content based on what location they're in or what their interests are, or really anything, it could be like maybe one email for the executive team, something like that. You could instead use dynamic content rules and then just add your rules to control who can see what content. Once you have finished building out your email or newsletter, you can preview it. You can preview both the desktop and the mobile version. So I'll preview the desktop version. By the way, all of the templates in Swift are automatically mobile responsive. So everything will automatically snap to a single column layout, as you can see here. So you don't need to do anything special. That just happens for you automatically. For those of you who are government, probably also really important for you to check the text version of your emails, just to make sure that for those who are using screen readers for accessibility purposes, that the text version is coming across and looking okay to them. Um, you can just give it a run through. It'll pull through any content that you've added in your newsletter, but you just want to give it a run through, make sure it's all displaying okay. I did pull up a preview of the newsletter, so this is just the desktop preview. Um, we talked about the read more, or sorry, the table of contents function, but I also want to talk about our read more functionality and how that works. So with many platforms, when you click a read more button, it sends you off to a separate landing page or to maybe your website. You have to create something there. With Swift, it acts more as an expand collapse function. So you can see if I click read more here, it will expand to show additional paragraphs of text and an image, but I'm still looking at the actual newsletter. I haven't been sent to a separate landing page. The reason that we do this is we don't want to send people away from the newsletter. Anytime you send them away, it's always a likelihood that they're not going to come back and engage with the rest of your content. So if we keep them in view of the newsletter, then they can finish reading and continue on to the next article or content block. And the same rule applies to YouTube videos. So we're not sending them off to YouTube. We're instead playing the video in the newsletter. All right, I think that pretty well covers designing and editing your emails and newsletters. It's really easy to do with the drag and drop editor. You have a lot of different content widgets and formatting controls available to you. Once you're ready to publish, you can send yourself a test email or anyone else. You can enter any email address here and that will send a test to their inbox. And then the final step, of course, is to publish the email. I'll quickly run through publishing and just point out a few features that I think are useful to most clients. So first of all, when you're publishing, we'll double check all the content in your email. Make sure none of the keywords are going to trip up spam filters. We'll also check that your email has an unsubscribe link. That's necessary for external comms. For internal comms, we have a different option. So if you are planning to use or you're looking for a provider to send internal comms, then talk to us more about that because we have some alternative options when it comes to allowing internal contacts. Most people wouldn't want them to be unsubscribing from your communications. You can double check any links in your email, make sure none of them are broken. You can choose when you want to send your email. It can be immediately or at a future date and time. There's a couple other features that might be useful. One is throttling. So if you are sending out an email and it includes maybe a phone number to a call center, or you just want to stagger the send across a certain period of time, you can throttle your communication so that they're only going out to up to 15,000 per hour. We are increasing this as well, so there should be higher volumes available soon. But that is really useful if you have like a call center, you don't want everyone calling in at once, or you're sending people to your website and you don't want them all arriving at your website at the same time, then you can throttle. The other thing you can do is you can A/B test your subject lines. So with A/B testing, you enter two different subject lines. You can also personalize your subject lines if you want to pull through maybe their first name. That's the most common thing that people would do when they're personalizing. But you choose two different subject lines, and then each subject line gets sent to 10% of your overall audience. And then after the analysis period that you set here, the system will check to see which subject line had the best performing open rate. And then it will automatically send that subject line to the remaining 80% of your audience. So really easy for you to increase your open rates through doing A/B testing here. You just need to choose two subject lines and the system will take care of the rest for you. The last steps are to enter your sender details. With Swift, our onboarding also involves quite a bit of technical configuration. We'll work with your IT team to set up an account subdomain so that it's branded to you, but also an email sending domain. So when you go to send email, you're never sending from a Swift email address. You're always sending from your own email domain. You can send from any email under your domain. The domain is the part that comes after the @ symbol. So once that's set up and all configured, you can send from any email address that falls under your domain. And the final step is to choose who you'd like to send the email to. So these would be like the mail groups that you have imported. So we looked at that all new subscribers group in the database earlier. There were 21 contacts in that group. You can add that as a group. You can add multiple groups as well. The system's smart enough to know if the same person is in multiple groups, it'll auto deduplicate. The person will only receive the email a single time. You can nominate an email address to receive a report after the email has gone out. So let's say maybe 48 hours after the email has been sent, send a report to a certain email address. You can do that, but you can also just at any time log into the system and come to the reports area. I'm going to jump there next, but you can jump into reports and have always, your most recent up-to-date data. Let's move into reports. I'll show you some of the different reporting tools and features that you'll get with Swift. I'm going to jump into a different account that has some live reporting data. So you can see we're still in Email Composer, but we've jumped to reports now. So in reports, you're going to get your top level stats. So those will be things like those who successfully received the email, any that bounced, those who opened and clicked. You can drill down on any of these numbers to see who those contacts are. I can't for privacy reasons, but if you wanted to see like the 26 email addresses that bounced, you could click that and it would show you those email addresses. You could also export them if you'd like. And the same applies for opens and clicks. You'll get some charts and graphs based on this data. You can download these charts or export the data to CSV format as well. You can download all the data to PDF, or one of my favorite reporting features is the click map. That will pull up a visual view of your newsletter, and then next to each link, you can see the total number of people who clicked. So that's just really quick and handy way to see how different articles are performing with your audience. Now that's not all you get. Down below, if you scroll down, you'll also have your detailed reports area with a lot more data. So this includes every story or link in your email. You'll be able to see the total number of people who clicked. You can see this article on spam traps was by far the most popular. It had 127 unique clicks. Again, you can click to drill down and see who these contacts are. Or I could export these contacts or add them to a mail group in the database. Let's say I wanted to do a follow-up campaign specifically on spam traps. I could send it just to these contacts because I know they're all highly interested in that topic. If you included the reaction or ratings widget in your articles, you'll see them reported in the data like so. That just shows you how people reacted to the content that you included. Beyond that, you'll get quite a few other reports or statistics. So you can see a time graph that'll show you across the first 48 hours when people are opening your email. You can see what devices and operating systems people are using, where they're coming from. This is grouped by country and by city. And subscribe, unsubscribe data, top domains, all of that is available to you in the reports area. One thing I didn't mention, when you're actually building out your email comms, let me jump back. to the newsletter that we were looking at before, you can tag your articles with article tags. So over time, you'll have data collected on your different tags, and you can see which tags perform best amongst your audience. You can add multiple tags to an article, and then when you're viewing your reporting, you'll have your article tag data displayed in here as well. So that gives you a quick overview of the reporting and statistics that are available to you after you've sent an email. There's another tool as well called Compare Statistics that allows you to compare from edition to edition how things are trending over time. So just to show you what that looks like, I'm just looking at editions that have been published over a year. So you can see here, this is showing your sent, success, opens, clicks. I'm going to switch the chart type to performance comparison. That's what I find most useful. But this shows you over the course of a year how your open rates performed edition by edition. So you can see, overall, actually the November 24 edition performed very well. It got the highest number of, or the highest percent of opens, also the highest percent of clicks. So you could then go into this reporting area to see what content in that edition performed so well. Why did it get so many clicks? Why were there so many opens? That just helps to give you insight over how things are trending over time. So you kind of want to see things either maintaining or increasing, but this will also alert you if your open rates are decreasing over time. So that compare statistics tool is very valuable. And again, any charts or graphs that you have in the platform, you can download the files to just as image files if you want to include them in your own external reports. All right, I think that pretty well covers the reporting area. We're going to move on to cover the other modules. But just before I do, I wanted to talk about how things are organized in Swift. So you can see here, over time, you can end up with hundreds or even thousands of different email communications. So you want to keep them organized, and we allow you to do that by creating different folders. So you can see here, this is a drop down of folders. If I go to the AFP folder, it will just show me AFP communications that have been created. But you can create your own folders in this folder area here. This kind of gives you an overview of your folders and how many emails and landing pages are in those folders. But for those of you who would have a lot of different users or different business areas sharing in the account, folders become very important because it also allows you to restrict who can access your folders. So you can see here, this AFP folder by default is visible to all users in the platform. But if I wanted to, I could uncheck that, and then I'd have a list of users in my account, and I could choose which users can access the contents of that folder. So that's important when it comes to email communications, but even more important when it comes to your data lists. And you can do the same in the database area. You're able to create different folders, store your data lists in those folders, and then choose who can actually access those data lists. All right, we've covered the email composer module. I'm going to show you landing pages. That one won't take very long. What landing pages does is it allows you to create web pages and add your own subscription or sign up forms, or even archives. If you're sending a newsletter, you could have a page, an archive page that automatically pulls through an edition that you've published. I'll show you this example of a lead capture page. So we set up this landing page, pretty simple, just a bit of information. The main call to action here is to get people to submit this form. So building a landing page is very similar to building an email. It uses the same drag and drop builder. A couple differences with landing pages, though. You notice a landing page can be much wider than an email. And the other difference is there's the CTA form widget. So the CTA form widget, anywhere you drag and drop that in, it'll add a subscription form to the page. You can play around with the formatting, but this is the same form widget that we've added over here. So you drag and drop that in. You choose what data fields you want to capture on your form. So you can see the data fields that we're capturing here. You can even choose which are mandatory. If you have any hidden data fields you want to pass through, you can enable them as hidden data fields as well. But you create your form here. You can add any data field that you'd like to capture just by clicking the Add Field option. And then you choose what mail group. So that's the area or the segment in the database that people who submit this form fall into. So you choose the mail group that people would fall into. Um, this can also initiate a welcome email being immediately sent. And that is the first case study that I'll show you in a moment, does exactly that. As soon as someone submits the landing page form, it immediately sends them a welcome email. Um, when you have finished building your page, you would activate or publish the page. So you choose when the page is available from, and then also what URL you want it to reside on. So the URL will again be your own organization's URL. It will never be a Swift URL, but it would be your URL, and then you can choose the path. So you're able to have a nice short vanity URL that you can direct people to. You'll also get reporting in the landing page module. It'll be similar to email reports, but in this case, it's just showing you the number of people who've arrived on the page, what they've clicked on. You'll be able to see the total number of people who submitted the form. You'll get all of that data. By the way, if you use Google Analytics, you can also, through the settings area, add your own Google Analytics tracking IDs or Adobe Analytics or even Facebook tracking pixels. So that allows you to track your data, not just in Swift, but also in, let's say, Google Analytics, for example. You can have all of that click data also pass through there. All right, let's jump to surveys next. I'm going to show you an example of two different surveys. I'll show just the outputs so you get an idea of what surveys look like in Swift. But this is just an example form that we set up for Arrow. Um, when you're setting up your surveys, you can brand your surveys with your own banner and footer image. So what you're looking at here is just a simple survey that's been set up with, at first, simple input fields. But once you've filled out the questions, you can add page breaks. So you have different pages on your survey. You can add table matrices like this. Um, yes, no questions. There's about 15 different question types that you can add to your surveys, such as text fields or rated questions like this. Um, Also, something that not all platforms allow you to do is there is a file upload question type. So if you need people to be able to upload things like Word docs or PDF files, image files, you can include that as a question type, is just a file upload option. If you have really lengthy forms or surveys and people are not likely to complete it all in one go, you might want to use the save for later function. That allows people to enter their email address, and we'll send them an email with a link where they can come back later on and pick up where they left off. So they don't need to complete everything in one go. But this is an example of kind of an evaluation form that you could set up. Another really common example of a survey would be event feedback. So I'll show you what that looks like. So the first page is just asking overall, how would you rate the event? You can also add conditional questioning to your surveys. So in this case, if someone rates poor, it's going to show an additional question asking them why they've given that rating. Maybe they can elaborate a bit on that. Otherwise, if they choose another type, they just continue on. Table matrices are really useful if you're asking them to rate different categories or topics. Drop downs, radio buttons. Um, so event feedback forms is a really other common usage for using surveys. Surveys, once people submit their response data, the reporting data will come through the reports area. You can come in here and view your data, or you can just export it to CSV if you prefer to just look at your data in Excel. Your survey templates will also be branded, and we can build multiple templates if you have different business areas or you need different look and feel. You can swap between different styling or templates. Um, and another thing, I think two other features that are useful to mention is when you're publishing your surveys, you can make them private. So that allows only people who've received an email invitation to complete and submit the survey. And they can only do it one time, so it stops people from sharing their survey links and having others submit the survey. And then the other thing you can do is you can pass hidden data fields from the mailhouse through to your survey results. So any data that you already have on a person, like first name, last name, email, you could tick these to enable those data fields to pass through from the database through to the survey submissions. Surveys are anonymous by default. It's only if you add identifying fields in the survey or you're passing through hidden data fields that you're able to identify someone. That is a look at the survey capabilities. We'll have a look at SMS next. SMS is very easy to set up. You could set up and send an SMS in about 5 minutes if you needed to. When you're setting up an SMS, you just add the content that you want to go in the body of the SMS. So you'd set that up. You can even personalize it. There's some personalized fields with any data that you'd like first name would be the most common example. But once you've set up your SMS, you just go through to publish it. You choose the group or the list of mobile numbers that you want to send to. You just can choose when you want to send it, either now or schedule it later on. And then you choose whether you want to send either one-way branded, which means your SMS is coming from a name. So it might be your organization name, or two-way, which means the SMS comes from your own dedicated number, but also allows people to reply. So if you want people to reply yes, no, or stop, that's where the two-way comms becomes very useful. The SMS module was really useful for especially clients who had internal lists during, crisis or emergency, the COVID days when they had to quickly send out comms to people. The SMS module was the fastest way to get comms out. All right, let's jump to the events module, and then we'll have a quick look at the automation modules, and I'll show you one of the case studies. So within the platform, you'll see I jumped into events. You can also set up events, and there's different options that you can go through when you're setting up your event. For example, you can put a capacity on your event. I'm just going to show you what what the outputs look like. So when you're setting up your event, you'll create a registration form that might look something like this. So when you're building your form, it'll pull through your event details. You can again choose what data fields you want to capture on your registration form. So you can see dietary requirements is an option here. You create your forms in the form builder tool, and it's very easy, just like creating an email or landing page, very easy for you to customize the content. Once people register for your event, you'll see them come through under the registration table. So you can see a bunch of test registrations here, but this is what it looks like when people are registering. There's different statuses if someone declines or if they join a wait list. If they've canceled their booking, you'll still have that data on a registrant. And then we also have an app that you can download on any Apple or Android device, and you can use that app to scan attendance at your event or even to print name tags. So you can have, as people are arriving, you can check them in by searching for their name or by scanning their QR code. They'll get a confirmation email from you once they register that looks something like this. So it'll include the details of the event, a QR code, and that QR code is what you can scan as people are arriving to the event. You can see on the confirmation email, people can also add the event to their calendar. All right. You can also run multi-format events. So I'll show you this example here. Works really well if you run in-person and webinar style events. You could set up an event form that looks something like this. So when people arrive on the registration form, they can choose what format they want to attend, either in-person or webinar. And then they choose the total number of tickets they'd like. So 2 attendees on the webinar register themselves and each webinar attendee. We do have integration with Zoom and Teams, so that will allow us to connect with those platforms and track attendance. So as people arrive in Zoom, it'll record the time that they arrived, the duration that they stayed in the meeting, and then the time that they've left. And that same integration will work with Teams as well. So that's really handy if you're running webinars over Teams or Zoom. You can also print name tags in Swift. So if you're running events and you need to be able to print name tags, we have a built-in tool that will allow you to upload your own name tag templates, and then you can just print name tags directly from the system. All right. I think there's a lot to cover in events. I could spend a whole hour on events, but hopefully that's a pretty quick uh, overview of what events looks like and how it works. I'm going to jump to the automation modules next and run you through those. So with the automation modules, we have two options. One is called triggers. And for any of you existing clients on the call, all of you have access to triggers. Triggers is included in all of our plans. Triggers allows you to automate the sending of email or SMS comms based on actions or dates. I'm going to show you an action trigger in a case study, but let's have a look at a date trigger. So you can see here we have, for the Victorian Building Authority, we have a 6-month notice of building registration expiry. So you could imagine you have a list of contacts, and each contact has a building expiry date associated with their profile. We can use that date data to automatically trigger comms based off of that date. That would be unique to each person. So when you're setting up your trigger, you can see here, we're triggering it based on a date field in the database. So that date field is the building registration expiry date. What we want to do is whenever someone has a building registration expiry coming up in 6 months, we want to send an email notification to them. That email notification would look something like this. Include their details. It'll pull through dynamic content based on their building name, registration number, expiry date. Those are all data fields in the database. But we want to trigger that email 6 months before a building expiry date. So that's what we've set up here. So at 9 a.m., 6 months before the building registration expiry date, we want to trigger this email communication. So that's how it's set up to trigger based off of a date field. You can do it based off of anything. Some clients will do it, on birthdays. Others will do it on other renewal dates or staff start dates. You could send it based off any date data that you have. Our other marketing automation module is Campaign Builder, and that is a more advanced version. It allows you to set up multi-pronged user journeys. I'll just show you this example here. So what you're looking at here, and I know there's a lot going on screen, but essentially we have a welcome email. And when that welcome email is sent, we want a follow-up promo email to go a month later. So you can see here we have a few triggers set here. So when the welcome email is sent, we have 3 triggers. Now, the conditions here are based on age range. So for people who are 18 to 30, we want them to get this promo email. Those that are 31 to 50 will receive this promo email. And then those 50 plus will receive this promo email down here. So the welcome email will be sent to an individual, and then every day the system will check. And then when it's 30 days later after the welcome email being sent, depending on their age range, they'll get one of these 3 emails. Then when they get the promo email, we have another trigger set. So if this promo email goes unopened for 3 days, then we will automatically send a follow-up SMS that says, we've sent you an email, please check your inbox. But we can also have it notify someone on our sales team or a certain email address that this person hasn't opened the promo email and ask for a manual follow-up. So that's really where it starts to get more into the marketing automation side of things. But these are very easy to set up. Anyone can do it. You just set up your assets and then you start linking them together, kind of drawing out this flow chart. Once you have activated it, these little pink circles here will show you the total number of people that have flowed through to each step in your journey. So some clients have really lengthy automations. It's always interesting to see how far people get in the automated journeys. Okay, I think that completes kind of the live demo portion. I'm going to spend just 5 minutes talking about case studies, and then we'll reserve the last 5 minutes for any questions that people had, and then wrap up after that. So let me jump back into the presentation. Now, there are different types of automations that you can set up in Swift. I have some examples of those here. So everything from nurture campaigns. I'm going to show you one of those in just a moment. Transactional communications, conditional workflows. I just gave you an example of a date-based email comms, but it can also be action-based. And then some of our clients, we have web-initiated communications. So when they post something to their website, we automatically grab that content, create an email, and send it out to a certain mail group or distribution list. Those sort of automations can be built in as well. But the first case study I want to show you is for a client of ours that's recently come on board. I think they might even be attending the webinar, but this is Jackson McDonald, a law firm in WA. They came to us and they had a series of 9 email communications that they wanted to send to new staff. And they wanted these communications to all be sent staggered throughout the course of a month. And these email communications are meant to improve staff engagement, but also just to inform new staff as to policies that they need to be aware of. Could be things like payroll policies or something like that. So the way that we set this up for them is they showed us the 9 different email communications that they had set up. And they also needed it to be very easy for someone in their HR team who doesn't actually have access to the Swift platform to be able to start and trigger these emails going out when new staff come on board. So we came up with a solution for them where we set up these 9 email communications. You can see those comms set up here, each one represented as a different thumbnail. This CEO welcome is the first email that a person would receive. So that's the trigger point. Everything else is based off that CEO welcome email being sent. So the way that gets set up in Swift is we set up a landing page, and that landing page includes a sign up, a submission form. So it's what you see here. This is what the HR staff would use when they want to trigger the onboarding process to new staff. So they just enter the staff's first name and staff email address and click Start Onboarding. That would immediately send the first email, which is that CEO welcome email. So quite easy to set up that landing page, add a couple fields, and then this is the trigger point that sends that, that CEO welcome email. But what about all the other emails that we need to send out after that? Well, that's where, again, the triggers module that all clients have access to, that's where it becomes very useful. So you set up a different trigger for every email, and you can see here the trigger is based on an action. So we're actually basing it off that welcome email being sent. So every trigger is a different number of days after the welcome email being sent. So you can see email number 2 is going 4 days after the welcome email is being sent. Email 3 is going 7 days later, etc. I'm going to show you how that's set up in the platform. We looked at date triggers earlier. Action triggers are very similar, but in this case, the action is based off that welcome email being sent. So we set that as the action, and then we select the email that's going to trigger start this process. So that's the CEO welcome email. The next thing we do is we set the time that we want this trigger to fire. So in this case, this is the second email on the list. We want it to go 4 days after the welcome email has been sent. So really easy to set that, that trigger time. And then the last step is just to choose what we want to trigger. So this is the second email on the list. So we want to trigger an email. By the way, we could also trigger an SMS if we wanted to do that instead. But in this case, we want to do an email. So we'll trigger the email, and then we will send this second email asset, which is the people and dev email asset. And then that will set up the trigger. So you can see here, once you've set up all your triggers, it will look like this. There's about 9 different triggers that we set up for them. These each will act to send a different email based off when the welcome email was sent. All right. So yeah, if you can think of anything that you might be able to set up, this would save so much administration time where you're not having to go in and manually trigger emails. But please feel free to have a talk with us afterwards. I'm happy to set up a dedicated session with you to talk more strategy on how that would be set up. But this is going to be really useful, and I'm sure it'll save them a lot of time. Also make it really easy for HR to just initiate this process in the first place. All right, I think that's all the time we have for the case studies. There are a few other examples that I included in here of ways that you can increase stakeholder engagement. We'll send these slides through to everyone once we have the recording of the video up. But have a read through some of these things that you might be able to add to your own newsletters. Things like the jump links, reader submitted content, they always get tons of clicks and engagement. So have a look through those. It talks a bit more on the different types of reactions and ratings that you can add. There's some slides on how you can personalize your communications. And also my favorite one that you might look at is when you resend. So resending is you're resending to people who didn't open your first email. So you could set up an automated resend in Swift so that maybe after 3 days, anyone who didn't open your first email automatically gets sent a follow-up email. And over time, you can see there were 4 attempts made here, but over time, you're increasing the overall open rate of your audience. And you can go from like a 47% open rate to a 74% open rate just by resending. So have a read through of that. That's something that can also easily be set up in the Swift platform. You can see here that's used the campaign builder to do that. You'll also be able to download some free resources that we've included. You can click on these links to download those files. And also we have some mouse pads that we've just created that you can have mailed to you, and it includes little tips, or it's a cheat sheet that you can use to kind of make things easier within the Swift platform, especially when you're using a content editor. So you can submit the survey and then get your free mouse pad. If you work a lot in the Swift platform, then it'll give you some great ideas on things that will make your life easier. But I think that covers everything. If you'd like to book a more personalized individual session with us and run through the platform and discuss your requirements in more detail, there'll be a link included that you can to my calendar. You can book in straight away with me. But thank you all for joining. Really appreciate you attending today. I think there were just a couple questions. I'm going to jump over to that now. All right. The first question was, can you create a newsletter using a web page address? Yeah, great question. You can actually do that. It's one thing I skipped over on the publishing page, but let's say you're publishing a newsletter. You can publish to both email and web. And if you choose to publish to web, you can choose any vanity URL that you'd like. This would be on your own domain, but you can choose your own URL. And then you can use that URL wherever you'd like. If you want to include that on your intranet or your own website, you can definitely grab that URL. All right, and then the other question was, is there an API that can be used to obtain content from a specific URL? We do have an API that you can use. It's a REST API that you can use to extract content from. Probably worth discussing that in more detail to get to see what you'd like to achieve. There's different things you can pull through our APIs, but yeah, maybe if you can send a follow-up email on that, we can have a chat about how the API works. Also, if you have content on your RSS feed, if you have a website RSS feed, we can grab your content from there to populate your Swift emails. I'll show you just quickly how that works. So let's say you're working with your email content. If we have linked an RSS feed to your Swift account, you'll see there's an import tool here. You can click that. That will pull up different blocks from your RSS feed. You can choose one of the content that you want to add in, and then it'll pull through that content automatically for you. So you're not having to go back and forth from your website to copy and paste content in. All right, I think that covers all the questions. We will go ahead and end it there for now. Again, thank you everyone for taking the time to join. We run these webinars about twice a year, so it'd be great to see you at another one. And if you're an existing client, we run even more webinars to show you some of the new features that we launch pretty regularly. So keep an eye out on your emails for that. Hope you all enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks so much. Bye.